For the lead counsel for the deputy president had asked up to Tuesday again, not so sure whether he would be able to come and testify. So the speaker was left with no option but to make a decision, implications of which he must live with. Again, that's the beauty of us being a democracy, that in as much as we may not want you so much, the law ensures that our rights are not infringed on by anybody. And again, the president being well advised by his legal team, I'm so sure, since there is no hurry to have a new deputy president in the office, I am so sure that he would follow the due process of the law. And again, the CJ, I can't foresee a situation where the CJ would, or even the deputy CJ, swear you in when there is an order stopping it. So we wait to see what happens on the 26th of 24th of this month. We hear what the judge will say, whether they will say that the order, the stay continues, and whether they will lift it up and allow the deputy-elect to be sworn in. So it is a funny scenario because now we have the deputy president and the deputy president.
So Gachagua should be given a chopper.
Oh, he should
fly to Mashujade. Also, he's taken ill, so also some good care. Yeah, maybe could be discharged any moment from now. So he's also free to hit the ground at the
with this order, I believe that with the order he is still the deputy president of the republic. Pending any other order or any other direction by the courts.
Well, Rigathi Gachagua is still in hospital, current hospital, and the Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has castigated the move to remove from office former, Rigathi Gachagua actually from office while he was undergoing treatment. The Wiper leader now says the move is against the law that required the deputy president to defend himself. Kalonzo was speaking after he visited Gachagua at the hospital this morning.
Pata fursa ya kumwona Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, naibu wa rais wa awamu ya pili chini ya katiba 2010, na tunashukuru Mungu kwamba anaendelea vyema kulingana na ripoti ambayo tumepatiwa na madaktari, lakini bado ako na udhaifu, na kwa hivyo atunge hata kumzungumzia hata zaidi. Tunamtakia kila laheri, lakini huku tukizidi kumtakia uponyaji wa haraka, hatuna budi ila pia kuangazia yaliyofanyika jana kwa seneti. Tuwapongeza wale maseneta ambao walichukua msimamo wake katiba, lakini kama wanasheria mimi mwenyewe najiunga wazi na yale ambayo Mheshimiwa Senior Counsel Paul Mwite aliyazungumzia juu ya ukiukaji wa sheria kikatiba na mambo yao, na hayo maneno ni wazi yataangaziwa kindani sana kwa mahakama. And we continue to insist that the last line of defense for the future of this country remains our judiciary. So we want to urge that justice reign, even though the heavens may fall, but may justice reign. May justice reign in our courts. May there be men and women able to avoid a situation of state capture. As we have said, this country's economy is under state capture. We all have said it openly before that the legislature itself is under capture by the executive. And we will, as a people's loyal opposition, continue to talk to Kenyans, have conversations about that fearlessly, knowing that this is a country under God.
If we ever doubted that our parliament is under capture by the executive, a very overbearing executive, last night was our evidence. It was proof that our parliament is dancing to the tune of the executive, both the National Assembly and the Senate. There was no reason why these proceedings could not have been postponed until Saturday. What was the hurry? When Speaker Kingi withdrew to his chambers, what were his instructions? We suspect and we believe he was told by stroke of midnight, you must be done with this man. And that is what happened. The law is clear. The rules are clear. If they had a special committee, they had 10 days. We do not have a limitation for the plenary. Why was the Senate hurried to crucify this man and bury him politically? All we can suspect is that Mutuse was just a hired assassin on a mission. And that was evident throughout cross-examination. And we must thank His Excellency the Deputy President's lawyers. They brought out the truth that, and this is what Senator Wambua asked Mutuse, whose motion is this? You could tell he was not the owner of the motion. He was just a gun for hire. And through cross-examination, that became very evident. But today, apart from the principle of a man not being condemned and hard, especially when he's on his back in a hospital bed, the second principle that was broken by the House, which is a fundamental principle of natural justice, is that you shall not be a judge in your own cause. The rule of bias is a very basic principle of natural justice.
DAPK Party Leader Eugene Amalwa and Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka, who had just visited Rigathi Gachagua, who, according to Marara Umokie, just, of course, trying to interpret the orders given by Justice Chacha Mwita of the High Court, is that he remains the Deputy President. In fact, his lawyers will be addressing, the media any moment at the Muringa Court. There is Victor Swanya, and other lawyers. That is at 3 p.m. So we expect they will be actually reiterating what the High Court has just ruled. If you're just joining us, breaking news: the High Court has issued temporary orders stopping the replacement of Rigathi Gachagua as the Deputy President until October 24th, when the matter will be mentioned before the bench, to be appointed by the Chief Justice Martha Koome for appropriate orders and action. At this point, Wakili, because understanding Kithure Kindiki was already approved by the National Assembly, had he forfeited his position as the interior boss?
No, definitely. Until he's sworn in, then he ideally should continue holding that position. So he should be happy to go back and focus on being interior CS.
And also considering the chest pains, the intense chest pains that Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua had, maybe this could, jubilate him. And any moment from now, also Rigathi Gachagua could be released from the hospital.
Yeah, the doctor said that they would have him admitted for at least 48 hours to 72 hours. So, I mean, any time from today, he should be able to go home. I don't think that because he was unwell, people should expect him to continue being unwell forever. I mean, we should just be fair to him.
So this cannot be a ploy that Rigathi Gachagua, maybe he could have been an opportunist.
No, I mean, let's not, when it comes to illness, I would say let's always give the benefit of the doubt to the patient. And the doctors, they said they were doing the tests, they were administering certain treatments, so there must be a reason. We are not doctors, so I wouldn't say that. I would give a benefit of the doubt and believe that the Deputy President was actually unwell. And people have visited since yesterday, and they have seen that he was not in good condition.
Now, in the event Rigathi Gachagua will survive this impeachment, is there any timeline that another impeachment motion could be brought in? Because maybe there could be another fresh impeachment motion again to remove him from office. For governors, there is a period that you cannot impeach after you've subjected them to an impeachment process.
I mean, even in this one, they would have to build properly, because I know that they will learn from the outcome. or whatever the court might order, eventually, if the court was to nullify, and there will be reasons for that, then whoever wants to bring another impeachment motion, they have to, first of all, do their homework prior to taking this impeachment motion back to the National Assembly. And it will come out clear in the fullness of time that it's not about numbers. You can have the entire National Assembly voting to impeach, but they must meet the standard. The standard is set out in the Constitution. It's gross violation. Gross means it's a very high standard. It has to be above balance of probability. It's nearly like proving a criminal offense. So it has to be very high. And if someone wants to bring it, then they must just comply with the law. There's no shortcut.
Kimani Mwangi.
Yes.
Is there possibility yet another proxy mover will bring an impeachment motion to oust Gachagua if at all he survives this one by Mwangi Mutuse?
Firstly, you know there are political ramifications to every decision that is made going forward, as well as legal. Now, what I'm even wondering is, sometimes you wonder, these positions are held in public trust. And you should only hold them if people trust you enough to hold that position. Otherwise, you should be great enough to let go of that which people no longer trust you to hold. Now, if we go by the results of the public participation that were brought to fore, that 65% of Kenyans didn't have confidence in the Deputy President to continue holding office. And those who did still did not say they wanted him to stay. He said they wanted both to go, meaning that they didn't have issues as long as two of them were going. Now, why would you want to continue holding that office if you hold it in situ for the people? I think whether or not there will be another impeachment motion coming, it is upon the Deputy President, who's been so declared by the courts, to ask himself why he holds that position. Is it for his self-aggrandizement? Is it for his political machinations, or is it to serve Kenyans? And if continuing holding that positions will enable him serve Kenyans, because even if another motion of impeachment comes, one thing about these things is that there is no law on impeachment procedure, meaning that there can be as new jurisprudence as there can be on the matter, because it depends on a legal view of the judge. There is no law on public participation again, meaning again, as we have seen quite a number of judges pronouncing themselves on a matter that others would insist on quality, others would insist on quantities, others would insist even on the time and how effective it was. There are so many angles to look at it. Even if you bring another motion, still, Deputy President can incite his people to make it chaotic again, the public participation. And he would still have a reason to go back to court and seek some prayers. So I think going forward, it is a matter of the President and the Deputy President deciding what is good for this nation. And more so the President himself.
Wakili, are there grounds so far, especially with the process from the National Assembly? I understand many questioned the public participation that was done. First of all, it was not, maybe it was qualitative but not quantitative. So that aspect, could it play out on how the judges would rule on this matter? At the same time, the fact that he was not accorded fair hearing. And out of the 11 grounds, 5, according to the Senate, were substantiated, and that's the reason they voted in support. So that now that 6 have already collapsed, on the 5, will it be an uphill task for Mwangi Mutuse or the National Assembly or the Senate or the Parliament at large to really bring evidence that will implicate Rigathi Gachagua on the 5 grounds? I believe now out of 11, 6 die automatically. considering it's only 5 that removed him from office. So he has a smaller battle, per se. So does one have to prove beyond reasonable doubt on the 5 grounds?
So when it comes to constitutional petitions, if an allegation has been made of a violation, then all you need to nullify a given act is any infraction that you can be able to establish. So as you can see, these petitions will be based on many grounds. There is what we've been talking about quite a number of times, public participation. There is the issue of fair hearing, natural justice, which demanded that give him an opportunity to be heard. Even if you had made up your mind, there was time up to tomorrow to hear him, but that was not done. So that's a major issue. And when it comes to natural justice, at any point in time when our courts are convinced that there was no fair hearing, they will always strike down the decision that was
But they said that the decision is because the legal team of Gachagua had not brought forth a medical report.
No, they never gave any reasoning. I mean, the motion was was moved by the majority leader, supported by the minority, and they voted on it. So the issue is, did they ask for the report? They never asked for it. The speaker would have asked to visit. He would have gone and visited the deputy president in the hospital. Maybe get the report. They could have directed for that doctor to be sent from the current hospital to come to the National Senate. But again, what would have been the urgency to require a doctor who is attending to a patient? As you know, in medicine, the priority is to save a life. Would you want to send a doctor who is trying to save a life to go and speak before some group of senators when there is time up to tomorrow? 2 more days were left just as of yesterday. So that one to me is a major ground for nullifying the entire process. The other issue, of course, when the Senate was passing the vote, and that will be presented to the courts. There is the Hansard that will come from both houses. When many of these members of parliament were debating, many of them had their own reasons why they were impeaching that were beyond the grounds in the motion. The other thing is the threshold. The courts have to look at the threshold. Out of the 5 charges or 5 counts upon which he was convicted, again, they have to look at whether there was actually sufficient evidence to reach a decision that this is a gross violation. And I'll give you an example. When they talked about him threatening to file a petition against a judge, how is that a gross violation? Anybody can file a complaint against any public official in this country. You can file a complaint against the president, basically any office in the country. So if you made a threat and you went ahead and did it, or you did not do that, how is that a violation of the Constitution? So the courts will be looking at the merits of those 5 charges. So
in Parliament, it is a political process, but now that it has moved to the judiciary, it will be a judicial process. And what you're saying basically is that at the judiciary, because it's not quasi-judicial, you need to prove more than maybe what Mwangi Mutuse was saying, I think,
I would say for me, we should actually stop calling this a political process. At least if you want to call it political, call it parliamentary. It's a parliamentary process, but really it's a constitutional, it's a legal process. It's just that now the senators and the members of parliament do not understand the role they were playing. What we were saying is that for the National Assembly, they sat as a grand jury. So still that, they ought to have understood they were no longer politicians at that point in time. For the Senate, they sat they were the judges here in this case. They should again have acted judiciously, but they never understood their responsibility. That's the unfortunate part.
Wakili, or rather Kimani Mwangi, yes. Could Gachagua have a smart politician who maybe looked stupid but in real sense was clever, that at this juncture, from 11 grounds already they have reduced it to 5 grounds, so it's easy for him to fight only 5 grounds compared to the 11 grounds that were there. And also, maybe it being an uphill task to really prove to the courts that indeed Gachagua is guilty of the 5 counts.
To the contrary, I think it got worse, because if you look at the grounds that were dropped, they are criminal in nature, many of them. Now, an impeachment is neither criminal, neither is it civil. It is an administrative issue aimed at correcting a governance error. The standard of proof for impeachment or for such process is clear and convincing. It is above a balance of probabilities, but below reasonable unreasonable doubt, or above beyond a reasonable doubt. So a legal a professor of law called Rotunda gave it that the threshold is it should be clear and convincing. Now, when you have charges that all the accuser needs is to convince the judge that the charges are convincing to an unprejudiced mind, and they are clear enough and there are 5 of them, it gets more dangerous. And I think that is why the lawyers on the side of the deputy president are concentrating on the process. Because it is very easy to strike down this whole thing on the basis of the process, like the public participation. Firstly, they know there is no law, so there is no general procedure on the public participation and how it should be conducted. So now they leave it to judge to look at what was done and give their mind. That gives you a leeway. Again, they come and tell us, now the deputy president was not given time to be heard. The Constitution does not make it a mandate. It is a right he enjoys. If it is a right, it can't be taken away from you because it is your right, but you can choose to exercise it or not. In this case, he might say he didn't choose to exercise it because he fell ill. But again, you know, falling ill is not like taking a trip where we know you are coming back tomorrow at this time so we can schedule you to come and speak before the Senate. And again, I keep saying this is a constitutional process with timelines. The Senate sittings were ending yesterday to take a break until Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, when the deadline falls, they're not sitting. And until then, there was no assurance that the deputy president could come. So again, that is an issue that both sides will argue and try to convince the judge that it is an issue that happened without anybody instigating it. So on all these issues, I think we are about now to engage ourselves in a very vicious legal battle, right? Because the deputy president has the rights to go to high courts, to the courts of appeal, and again even, to the Supreme Court. Even as you give your parting shot, because you're beginning to end up. Yes. Finish up. So I think what is important now is that those who really were on a hurry to have a new deputy president, which is understandable anyway, when you have a deputy president with whom you can't work, you need to be done with this process and get a deputy president you can agree with on most issues. But now this one seems to have been halted by the courts. And also politically, where does it put President William Ruto? Will he still be visiting the mountain? And perhaps Kithure Kindiki was brought to cool down the temperatures. Now that Rigathi Gachagua will remain. Surprisingly, with the politics, you know, there is no permanent enmity. It's all about interests. Who tells you that tomorrow the two gentlemen can sit and agree? And if Raila Odinga is working with the president today, after the vicious battle of 2022 and the chaos that followed thereafter, everybody or anybody, the two can unite and maybe we have them working together. If it doesn't, that is our wishes. If it doesn't, then we are in for interesting battle. Thank you. Wakili, as we wind up, on what next now for this whole thing? I mean, Kenyans are just curious to know what should they expect. So who is the deputy president? Today, if maybe there is a school-going children or child, if they are asked who is the deputy president of Kenya, what should they
it still remains the deputy president is this Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. That has not changed until all these processes come to an end. What I would say, for me, I would send a message to the leadership of the country, starting with the president. There's no need of doing what he's trying to do. There's causing divisions in the country, destroying a man, which would go beyond that individual. It would have political consequences that are not, I don't think that we want to stabilize the country. I think you need to come back to his senses. The Speaker of the National Assembly, come back to your senses if there is any left. And the speakers of the Senate, I think the leaders, they need to change how they are going about what we are seeing now. This kind of, even the opposition, especially the Orange Democratic Movement, I know that they are excited about joining government, but why do they have to do this in a way that also triggers other regions in the country? I think it's totally unnecessary. We need to get to come back to regular order.
Well, thank you so much Morara Omoke, advocate of the High Court, and as well Kimani Mwangi, a political analyst. It has been a special focus on the removal, restatement of Rigathi Gachagua as the Deputy President. Kithure Kindiki had already been approved by the National Assembly to replace Rigathi Gachagua. And so it is a matter of wait and see who then will lead or participate on Mashujaa Day as the Deputy President. My name is Joel Chacha. Do enjoy the rest of the viewing. Good afternoon.